Let me bring in Stefan Romaniw, who's co-chair of the Australian Federation of Ukrainian Organisations. Good to talk to you again, Stefan. This must be just heart-wrenching for you. You've been close to the action yourself recently, helping out with relief efforts from Poland. What's the latest you're getting from your friends and contacts in Ukraine?
Good to be with you again, Chris. Obviously, people are horrified by what they see. I think not only Ukrainians, but the whole world is horrified to see that how a human being, and how can you call these soldiers human beings, to do that, what they've done to people. I think on the ground, people are continuing to fight. They are ready to fight. They are ready to take this to the end. I think that from a Ukrainian perspective, President Zelensky, who spoke to the Australian Parliament last week, called for peace. But he said, if we're going to have peace, you have to help us to get that peace. And I think Australia, for example, by sending the Bushmasters and probably some drones and other things, are helping to get to that peace. But we're in a situation now that I think the world understands Russia. It understands Putin as being a total tyrant that needs to be dealt with. And yesterday's decision at the UN was also, I think it's a decision that nobody else could expect anything else but. It needs to be excluded. Russia needs to be excluded from all international tables. You can't have a tyrant, a nation that is doing what it's doing at the moment, to be sitting at a table, discussing, trying to find peace. It doesn't make any sense.
But this is Russia being suspended from the UN Human Rights Council. I mean, the point here is, yes, it's better than nothing, but Russia's still been on that council for the last month while it's been invading Ukraine. 25 countries voted to keep Russia in. And of course, the UN will never do anything substantial against Russia because Russia is a permanent member of the Security Council and has full veto rights. So the UN is just completely impotent in this case.
You're right. The UN is it's a toothless tiger. We had a rally. Some of our people rallied outside the UN offices yesterday in Canberra, passed on a letter taking our position. But I think you're right. Look, the whole issue of these institutions, such as the World Health Organization, the UN, these organisations are very much pro-Russian. And you know, when people say, "Oh, yes, but they're in," they don't. They try to find middle ground. They don't find middle ground. There is no middle ground here. People are dying. People are being murdered. Women are being raped. And the UN, the best it can do is say, "Oh, look, you shouldn't be doing this." Now, I think it's time now, and it's very, very timely what Zelensky has said. Give us what's required to end this war. The Ukrainians are winning this on the ground. The biggest problem is trying to fight it in the air. And I think ultimately Zelensky wants peace, Ukraine wants peace, but you can't have peace if you've got an evil tyrant like Putin and those that are working with him. Let me just add another dimension to this. Those that are responsible for this were also blessed by Patriarch Kirill. You know, his right-hand man, head of the Orthodox Church, blessing people to go and kill other people. What sort of Christianity is that?
It is shocking. I should mention my last check on that UN Human Rights Council, China's still on it, along with Arab countries, countries that routinely execute people and imprison people and deny rights to women. They're on the Human Rights Council, so it is kind of matters. What's happening here? We know Australian Bushmasters are now on their way to Ukraine. Other armaments and ammunition from other countries, as well as humanitarian aid. Is there enough support going to Ukraine to enable them to repel Russian forces?
Look, I think ultimately there has to be more. There has to be more. I mean, Australia, again, has taken a big step because it's now offering that what we call that more and more, not so much lethal, but making sure that through the drones, through these vehicles, Ukraine can start to control its own areas. There has to be more. And I think the more is lethal. And I know that some people will say, you're calling for war. We're not calling for war, but you will not stop this. You will not stop Putin by having conversations and sitting around a table. The fact is the SWIFT system's in place. We see that his daughter's assets have now been frozen. That's all terrific, but he's got another 35 or 40 people around him who have to have that same thing happen. And also, Chris, don't forget, those people who voted for this war, they were the people who are also complicit to this. They also need to take responsibility. They also need to have sanctions put against them. They also need to appear before the international courts. This whole issue of war, the issue of having war criminals, is a real issue that we need to take up. That's not going to stop the issue. That's not going to stop it now. What you need now is weaponry. Zelensky's been pretty clear about what he said, how to stop this. Give us the weapons that we need.
Absolutely.
We'll deal with it. He's not asking for boots on the ground.
The war was started and we have to enable Ukraine to defend itself. Thanks for joining us, Stefan.